context, a year in your life, and the music you associated with that point in time. Life, it's not always plain sailing, is it? Over here are, according to a survey from 2022, the 10 most stressful experiences that you are most likely to encounter during your life. And in 2007, I managed 3 of those in the space of 12 months. A nightmare house move that almost collapsed at the 11th hour. We had to end up taking a very big financial gamble to secure our new house, which thankfully worked out. We're still there 17 years later. A new job. A senior colleague tipped me off about some planned changes involving my role. So I had to move quite fast to find a new job, particularly with that big old mortgage hanging over our heads. Amazingly, I found something very close to my new home, and it was a perfect fit. They offered me the job on the spot. And the biggest one of all, late in that year, December, in fact, I became a dad. A tough pregnancy for my wife, culminating in a very difficult labour, 27 hours, as I recall. But it ended with us, that's me, Michelle, and baby Evan, safe and well in our new home, just in time for Christmas. Naturally then, music took a backseat in 2007, so I can't be 100% sure which of these great records were genuine at the time discoveries. But for what was a one-off year, never again thanks, there's a suitably one-off album at the top of the pile, so be warned if you're looking for a crowd pleaser. More on that one later, on with the close calls. First up, Lowe's second album with David Friedman producing. That is Drums and Guns, a very different record to 2005's The Great Destroyer, recorded as it was in the aftermath of Alan Sparhawk's mental breakdown whilst touring that album. A gaunt, despairing, angry record fueled by the horrors of the ongoing war in Iraq and rendered with a sparse, percussive palette, a stark, unshrinking production, all wonky loops, stuttering samples, organs and synths given equal billing alongside the guitars. Some particularly powerful songs, the disturbed hush and crushed futility of Dragonfly, the clattering, dubby dissolve of Dust on the Windows, and the mosquito noise and mounting dread and horror of Murderer. A very eye-opening reset for the band and an important signpost on the low road that the band had decided to travel down. Next, Burial's Untrue, such a uniquely sculpted piece of dubstep electronic music that it needed its own genre to fully encompass what it was. That was future garage. Much less about dancing, I think, and more about the full album experience. I think it needs to be taken in a single sitting. Atmospheres, moods, swampy, gritty reverb imagery of half-remembered places, sounds, people. Like drifting off into a fitful sleep whilst a pirate radio station playing in the next room invades your semi-conscious state. Sonically, a pretty extraordinary record. I might be returning to this one from a very different perspective fairly soon, so stay tuned. Important records this year from a few indie apex predators in the form of White Chalk by PJ Harvey and Radiohead with In Rainbows. In Rainbows is the Radiohead record with feet planted squarely in the band's more abstract and more melodic territories, but comfortably so. You get House of Cards, Weird Fishes, Body Snatchers, Jigsaw falling into place. It's an excellent record, and despite my residual Radiohead hesitancy, I totally get this one. Onto White Chalk, a kind of haunted history, all drafty skeletal arrangements, heavy on the piano, strings, harmonium. A very English Gothic tragedy full of historical mores and manners, an eerie sense of place and time, a connection between then and now through the land itself and the tales we tell about it. Like a History Channel documentary about a long-buried family secret, it's a story that Polly sells completely with utter conviction. It sticks with you long after its lean but richly drawn half-an-hour runtime. And finally, in this section, on paper at least, the heir apparent to 2007, one of the greatest albums of the new millennium to this day. But the heart wants what it wants, so it sits here instead. Yeah, this is Sound of Silver by LCD Sound System. Depending on your view of the man, either the one where James Murphy continued to plunder the new wave post-punk past for far too close for comfort inspiration, or the one where he took his subtle deployment of musical styles and vocal affectations to new heights, cracking open a hitherto hidden emotional core along the way. I will give you the title track, however, that Phil Oakey timbre. It teeters on the edge of Human League pastiche, but everything else, I'm good with it. The dance rock hybrid has a seamless UFO smooth exterior this time out. You really can't spot the panel joins. Plus, alongside Talking Heads disco, that's Time to Get Away, a certain ratio post-punk funk, as for them, and that hipster sneer of their own concocting, North American scum, Watch the Tapes, little pylon in there maybe. Murphy manages to break your heart with the incredible Someone Great, a genuinely moving piece of electronica about the death of a close friend and confidant. All My Friends gets a lot of the limelight on this album. It's Velvet Underground meets New Order's Temptation, if you ask me, but Someone Great towers over it. Electronic dance music has a hard time moving beyond simple, broad stroke emotional gestures, euphoria, melancholy, anxiety. So a piece of synthesized music that can genuinely move you to tears is a very rare and precious thing indeed. Which leads me into this year's choice. Sometimes a record just hits you somewhere. You find it a tough one to explain. Part of you almost prefers to keep it hidden away, to keep it all for yourself. Context again, maybe that fraught year, all that change, culminating in us, a new family, hunkering down together in the middle of winter, shutting out all the noise and just being with each other. That feeling of hibernation, that withdrawal into a tight little unit. Maybe some of that bleeds across into this pick, this album. I honestly don't know. I'm actually not going to talk about it too much. I'm much happier just experiencing this one than understanding it. This is The Forms and their second self-titled album, The Forms. Why the reticence from me? Well, I'm aware this could be viewed as a typical, obscurer-than-thou indie call. And I'm also aware that on the surface, this looks like quite a slight record. An observation, an accusation, I guess, that I'd like to spear right off the bat. Take the opinion of this ninny, who you may have experienced if you ever find yourself browsing user reviews on AllMusic. Excuse me, but what the fuck is that? This person has written thousands of these lazy, dismissive little quips over on AllMusic. Pure ignorance, disrespectful non-opinions, zero effort, zero insight. This album, almost 30 minutes, 12 tracks. An EP is stretching it, but yeah, it's on the shorter side. That brevity being compounded by the music itself. On the surface, some of the tracks feel like rewrites of other tracks. Snatches of lyrics and melodic motifs crop up again and again, twisted, recast, retooled. For a counterpoint, this guy over on Discogs, look, he gets it. Only one line too. I digress. You're probably asking yourself, what the hell is he trying to say about this record? It's short, it's repetitive, it's samey. This doesn't sound good. But it's this incessant prodding and toying and restlessness in the music that is the key. Sonically, maybe a little emo sounding, but there's something inscrutable, dreamy even in the vocals. Stacked, multi-tracked jumbles of formless sighs and short phrases. Words jump out over and over again. Focus, hands, plans, the colour red. Guitars twist and dive occasionally, Shields style. A big booming piano leads the melody more often than not. Fibonacci rhythms switch lanes mid-song. It sports a supremely unified and clear engineering job by Steve Albini too. He'd recorded and raved about the band's 2003 debut album, Icarus. And on this one, they worked him hard. 7 full weeks at his Chicago studio, getting everything just right. And luckily for them, it sounds glorious, pillowy, warm, smooth, and incandescent. The closest I could possibly get to a kinda for the Forms would be Shudder to Think. Kinda Shuds. Kinda D-Plan, maybe. but with a dialed back edge, a soupy dream pop froth pooling around the edges of the music. The single Knowledge in Hand blends big kind of Ben Folds piano into math rock stanzas and soft cooing vocal breaks. Alpha nestles into a barely feasible pocket dimension situated somewhere between Supertramp and My Bloody Valentine. Oberlin conjures thoughts of Chronic Town era Michael Stipe vamping beautifully through a hazy, jangling cloud of mid-toned, yearning melancholy. And Transmission, take that, Joy Division. It sways and slides into a final anthemic motif that makes my heart burst even now. A choppy, circular rhythm spiraling away into beatific oblivion. And that's it. Check them out. They're doing pop stuff now, which barely hints at quite how good this record is. Forget that. Start here, then Icarus, then Derealization. Then, if you're feeling brave, chase up their Desert Fathers side project. I'll leave you with some words of wisdom from Stephen King, of all people. He wrote once that the best maps show you which way is north and where there's water. The forms are that way. Stay hydrated. Okay, the forms are a very personal favourite of mine and arriving none too soon in this series. Yeah, I've hit a bit of a wall recently and I just need to kind of push through it. Thanks for sticking with me with these videos. Well, with this video as well. Why not show your appreciation for it in the usual way? A thumbs up really helps. As ever, all these videos are playlisted, so feel free to check them out at your leisure if there are any you've missed. But in the meantime, please do take care, and I hope to see you again back here very soon. Bye for now.